Recording in progress.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our session today from Hoplon InfoSec in partnership with IBM. Today, we're going to be talking about the criticality of offensive security and how storage and security teams can work together to build a defense. We have two speakers today, but at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session. I will be monitoring the chat throughout our webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to message me directly or put it in the chat. So with that, I will pass it over to the CEO and co-founder of Hoplon InfoSec, Rak.
Thank you, Nick. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. Okay. So as we all know, like cybersecurity is evolving every day, right? So think about it this way, like back in 2024, every 6 seconds is happening ransomware. 3 years ago, 2021, it was every 11 seconds. So it is increased significantly. Over 8 billion record was exposed in 2024. Around 94% of organizations experienced cyber attack, and they reported that. You will be surprised to know 60% of businesses close within the 6 month of an attack. And 95% of those attack happens from phishing. And, we all know about cloud. We all know about nowadays, everybody loves to store their data into the cloud. 82% of cloud storage has reported data breaches. So let's move on. So, cyber criminals is getting smarter day by day, and they are building their big ecosystem where they can commit crime and also share the knowledge how to commit a crime. As we all know about phishing, ransomware, those are the two major cyber attacks is happening nowadays. All you have to do is like spend $50 in dark web and you can get a phishing kit. With that phishing kit, you can generate a phishing attack. What you will get in this phishing kit, you will get like phishing emails, how to bypass two-factor authentication, and also you will be able to generate phishing. And let's take a step back about ransomware. Ransomware used to be a major challenge. Now it is more difficult for us. You know why? Because these criminals are sharing their knowledge. In addition to that, they are also selling ransomware as a service. Around 70% attack happened through ransomware in 2024. That's a huge number. And when we talked about ransomware, we have to make sure that it is happening with our data. Data security is very important. You know why? Because it's no guarantee if you pay the ransom, you will get your data back. Around 41% of the customer, they don't receive their data, even after paying the ransomware. Think about it this way. Your ransom is 5 million, you paid that 5 million, you still don't get your data back. And there is another surprising number, like 30% of those organizations get hacked within 12 months again. It's it's the time for us to stay awake. You know, about we were talking about deep and dark web where you can spend $50, right? There is one more trend we see from there is a lot of credential has been leaked into the deep and dark web, and these cyber criminals are selling those data for other cyber criminals to buy those and use those things so that they can uh, attack into other systems. Now, you will surprised to know about 55% of those attack happen to the credential leak. So we can connect the dots now. We are where we are getting those credential from the deep and dark web, and these criminals are using this to do an attack in our system. And one of the main thing they do is like they use man-in-the-middle attack. Sometimes they use it for phishing, things like that. And 25% of this phishing attack nowadays happen using this phishing kit, which we can find easily accessible into the deep and dark web. All right. So now we talked about what is happening. So let's talk about what is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is like confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility. And how we implement that cybersecurity is prevent, detect, and response. So let's talk about the layers, multi-layer security system. So in this diagram, we can see outside layer is governance and compliance, such as NIST framework, HIPAA, GDPR, ISO 27001. Next layer is attack surface management and deep and dark web monitoring, brand monitoring. So we saw an example why it is very important for us to monitor deep and dark web so that we know what is out there and what vulnerabilities they can use because of the information that we have out there. For the attack surface management, it's like we will be able to identify the attack vectors in advance. Next layer we are talking about is firewall. So we all agree, and most of the companies are using firewall nowadays. Next, we will be talking about offensive and defensive security. So in offensive security, we will talk about like we will say penetration testing, red teaming, and reconnaissance. The importance of offensive security is like if we act as an attacker and we will attack the defense in advance. So that way we will be identify the vulnerability of the defense that we have. In the defense security, we will talk about XDR, SOC, like EDR, and email security, mobile security, all those things is come under defensive security. And there is another thing which is offensive security and defensive security together, which is we call it as a purple team, where we will work together and identify threat intelligence and detection and response. And next thing is very important in the security world, which is network. Network is very important. We have to keep our network protected. And in there, we have to have network segmentation. Next layer, we have IVM storage file system. They have a security system for a storage data. And inside, there is a data, and we will have antivirus as well. All right, so let's move on to a real-time example. We all know about Target, and back in 2013, Target has a data breach. What exactly happened? So Target had an attack using one of the target's HVAC vendors. And while this HVAC vendor was accessing target's internal network, bad actor implemented a malware into the vendor's machine. So using this malware, bad actor was able to steal their credential. So afterwards, what happened? This bad actor logged in using their credential into an internal target network. And then they literally moved to point of sale network. And by moving this, they were able to install malware into 1,700 point of sale targeted devices. During that time, Target had endpoint security, they had IDS. Guess what? They got an alert from IDS that something unusual is happening, but employees did not take that alert into their consideration. So with that, they were delayed with that incident response. What happened with that? Data got stolen, and almost 40 million credit card and debit card information was stolen. 70 million PII data was stolen, which is name, phone number, email address, mailing address. And let's take a step back and see what exactly happened, right? What went wrong? So here we know we had endpoint security. That means Target had endpoint security, but endpoint security was not able to stop the lateral movement. And IDS provided an alert, but employees ignored that alert. So due to that ignore, the incident response was delayed. And that means incident response did not work. And despite those having those tools, they did not have network segmentation. If they have network segmentation, they could have stopped that lateral movement. And there is another tool called privilege access management that would be monitoring who has access and who doesn't. So that could be another place where we would be able to identify that thing, right? So what was the cost of this breach? Think about it this way. The cost was 202 million. And on top of that, Target has to pay fine because of the customer data breach, 18.5 million. And CIO and CEO resigned. What could we do differently to prevent this breach, right? We could have done penetration testing. Doing this penetration testing, we could have identified these vulnerabilities, and attack surface management and deep and dark web monitoring. Remember here they were using credential. So those credential was found in the deep and dark web, and the criminals use that credential to log in. And we got the alert from IDS, but our employees, means like target employees, did not take those alert into a consideration. So we can see a clear gap of training and awareness. Lastly, and the most important thing is the governance. So they did not have enough governance and enough compliance. So that was the main thing that I would say we could have prevent this breach if we have done it differently. So what is the lesson learned from here? Lesson learned from here is like cybersecurity is not a tool, it's a strategy and execution. You probably have the list of the tools, but you have to have a layer strategy. So let's move on. So there are a few core services that we will be talking about here that Hoplon provides. Uh, One of them is offensive security. In the offensive security is what we do is we generate a real-time attack. And with that real-time attack, what will happen is we will be able to identify the loopholes that we might have in our defense strategy. If there is any training we need for our defense team, then we will be able to identify. And it's a continuous attack and is a minimal human intervention. That means we are using AI and also we are using human to generate these attacks. And as you know, cyber criminals are using AI, they're launching sophisticated attacks. So we have to be ahead of the game. And for cyber criminals, they have to write it once. For we as a cybersecurity professionals, we have to be correct all the time. And next is attack surface management. So in this attack surface management is basically we will be able to identify the attack vectors in advance, where we will be able to see what exactly is happening and in advance, so that way we will have preventive measure. Next is deep and dark web. We have seen the importance of deep and dark web because we need continuous monitoring. We need to have someone looking at it and making sure that there is nothing leaked into the deep and dark web. And for a financial industry, it's very important to have executive protections to safeguard high profile individuals. So now I will pass this to Dr. Atif. He will be presenting the next slides. Atif, I will pass it to you. Looks like he's having some technical difficulties, so I will continue with this. So here we will talk about governance, right? So the governance and compliance. So it's very important to we have compliance for audit and standards like ISO 27001, 42001, HIPAA, SOC 2, NIST framework. Incident response and planning is very important. We have seen that in our example. Information security, audit, risk management framework, and creation and review policy for procedures. So those are the important things about compliance. Let's talk about penetration testing. So penetration testing is very important because we need to identify those vulnerabilities in advance before those attackers will be identifying those, right? So when we do penetration testing, we categorize into multiple different categories, right? Where is a web application testing, network penetration testing. So we had an example where we found there was no network segmentation. If target could have done a penetration testing, they could have find that thing in advance. Cloud security testing, threat modeling and analysis, and SOC maturity evolution, which means like security operations center. We will be doing a testing and making sure that security operations center is up to the standard. And next is mobile application testing. So with that, I will pass it to our partner, IBM. Mark will continue from here.
So good afternoon. Thank you, Rek. Fantastic content. So Mark James, I'm a storage a software specialist for the Midwest. Some of you might be able to tell I have a bit of an English accent, but I've been stateside for the last 20 years, just down the road from Rek in the north burbs of Chicago. Also, just have to apologize. I'm not actually there in Chicago with you, and I'm at the airport, but hopefully there's not too much background noise that's distracting. And So I'm so delighted to be partnering with a company like Hoplon. IBM have been unpacking these cyber attacks and cybersecurity for the last few decades, and we're seeing how these bad actors are getting through, as Rak has been explaining, and the criticality of having offensive security. And the key point that I'm going to go through, and I'd like everybody to take away from my part of the presentation, is that the storage team protecting the data, so it is really has to be a team effort between the storage team and security. And the data guys have got to start leaning into with security tools for data detection, and really understanding the security process for incident response as well. And the security team need to embrace some of these security tools that are within the data layer. And so, IBM have a wide portfolio now that protects the data, and we follow the NIST framework that aligns beautifully with the shield that Rak was going through, and with his security processes and solutions, as well as his offensive security, and then governance. I think one of the key points that's coming from this presentation is just how important it is to have governance. And go in my accent, a live story right now that I've been following, and is brutal for the company. Marks and Spencers and also Harrods have just been attacked as well. And the cyber company have been so overt. This Dragon Force community, they're pretty sure it's Dragon Force because they were advertising for local hackers who could do some phishing and social engineering for them to get credentials for Marks and Spencers. And they've been able to cripple it's a top retail, Marks and Spencers and Harrods alike, Macy's and Saks within the US, absolute top retailers within the UK with who spend a lot of money on IT to protect their environment. And they were able to encrypt and take down Marks and Spencers, who were trying to keep this secret and were trying to address trying to respond and recover from their backups. And the ransomware company, I said, we think it's Dragon Force, and they could be partnering with they're called Scattered Spider. I mean, they get together, and it's a network of teams. They reached out to the BBC directly and said, we've attacked Marks and Spencers. They haven't publicly announced this yet. Here's a sample of data of their credentials, and if they don't pay the rent, please publish this. But if they don't pay the rent, this is the credentials about that. If they don't pay the ransom, we're going to release the personal information, the vulnerabilities now to all of their supply chain, and the fact that how negligent they've been by not following their compliance. So this story after story of this, in excruciating detail, and it's very apt to why this is so important. And a lot of the issues that Marks and Spencer are having right now could have been solved with good compliance and with the storage teams working closely with security. So if you go to the next slide, please, Nick. So this is from a report that we've done at IBM. That we can do a handout after this meeting, but it's the other reasons why Marks and Spencer will try not to pay the ransom, and the pattern of this group of individuals. It's the Interpol and the police, Scotland Yard of England, think that the main hub is out of Malaysia for Dragon Force, and they've done hundreds of attacks before. And if someone does not pay the ransom, they post the vulnerabilities and the likely negligence of that company, so to actually create class action lawsuits against those companies. And of those 168 companies that have been posted, several now have class action lawsuits and are likely to be bankrupt and out of business by the end of this year. That's how serious this is getting. So not only are they crippling the company, they've got tools for exfiltration of the data to hold them as a threat that we're going to drop this data and you're likely to be in a class action if this happens. So it's this extortion's on the rise, and unfortunately, the sophistication of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and these other coins out there, they can be totally anonymous, even with the police, and CIA, NSA, Interpol, unable to trace where the money is going. So let's go to the next slide. Next. So, as I'm delighted to be working, IBM working with Hoplon as it really should be as one, the custodians of the data, or the storage team, working with the security team. And I know this is a fairly busy slide, but I'm not going to go too much into the technology. And I recommend if this is of interest, we can go deeper into any one of these technologies I'm going to walk through. That is really part and parcel of the security team and the storage guys. But if you look at the left-hand side, where we talk about the primary workloads that your enterprise may be running on your enterprise storage, the first thing we talk about is just how do you not be negligent? Now, table stakes nowadays is can your servers run data that's encrypted at rest? And the majority of servers out there, unfortunately, including IBM's power servers, do not have encryption at rest. It is crucial to make sure that as a tick in the box, your data is on encrypted data at rest. And why IBM storage, and there are other vendors out there who have encryption at rest on their storage. The other is if you look in the box below the production storage, you're seeing the dotted line. That's really trying to show snapshotting. So if you can have an immutable snapshot on your production array, that is the best way to recover your data. If you can recover from a production snapshot on your array, you can, the RTO is, sometimes less than a minute. So within minutes, you could be bringing back a database. And then the next box is representing a separate storage system for backups. And, that's usually a much slower RTO. And actually with Marks and Spencer's, what's interesting, they were threatened with the ransomware, and they said, if you don't pay initially, we're going to delete your production storage. And they said, okay, this week the production storage deleted. And then they started deleting short-term backups. And now, going back to the 168 they posted, they haven't posted the credentials of Marks and Spencer's or Harrods who they've attacked. And that's usually means they've now paid the ransom, and they're now just trying to recover after the ransom attack. And Marks and Spencer's were hit on Easter, so April 20th they were hit, and they've just announced today, actually, just the news is going on, they will not be live with their e-commerce site until the end of July, and that they are losing £40 million a month, so $15 million per month they're losing right now. And the technology they have, they're just not able to recover their whole environment at scale. It's going to take them 2 more months. That's $100 million just because they don't have modern incident response technology that IBM has with Hoplon for you today. So we could bring that 2 months down to within a working day, within 24 hours, we could have a major environment of thousands of machines and potentially a petabyte of data in 24 hours. So having a modern backup platform is so crucial. And then, so part of compliance should be just out of the box, just basic table stake stuff like encryption at rest, immutability. Immutability means just like Brack has been talking about how most of these attacks are gained by getting someone's credentials through social engineering, phishing, sometimes by a Trojan horse that has actually got into your environment. But you've got to accept that these bad actors are going to get your most critical credentials to get in, and having this immutability where it's on an expiration date. So these copies of your data, nobody can change, even if they're internal, even if it's the CEO of your company, that data cannot be changed and it has to expire. And that gives you an edge against these bad actors to be able to at least find that last clean copy of a mutable copy to bring back. And it's almost considered negligent if you don't have that in your organization, of which Marks and Spencer's and Harrods did not have that. Now, the other thing that's really new to the storage guys, and when I've been speaking to them, they don't want to take it on. It's really for the security folks to be taking these detection on. So if you look at all these little clouds that I'm showing here, so up on the production storage, we have real-time anomaly detection for discovery on the actual storage array. So real-time on the IO. So in a millisecond, we can actually start identifying an unusual pattern that could be alerting both the security folks and obviously the data storage guys that something's awry and that you need to take action right away, which could be just, let's get a clean snapshot, make it immutable right now, ready to be able to respond if we can't mitigate this attack that's going on right now. And again, on the next green cloud in the box on the snapshots, there's additional layers for data-specific anomaly detection. So IBM have worked with another alliance partner to have a best-in-class that was purpose-built for the Epic database, ERP systems like SAP and Oracle, again, getting an immediate response that there's an unusual pattern to alert both security and the storage guys. And again, on that lower box where we're talking about the backup, and I'm guessing everyone on this call understands best practices, that minimum 3, 2, 1. So 3 copies of your data, 2 different storage systems. So we're talking about primary and that backup storage, and then at least 1 copy that is going offsite somewhere else. So for you to be able to, when you do have an instance, to have an instance response. And then the other new feature we're seeing that's making a big difference out there is this middle box, this isolated environment. We also call it clean room. And this is one of the weaknesses when we've spoken to security folks before, is they're only scanning recent data that's being created. The actual percentage of all the security tools that are scanning for malware with the latest patches is really only a small percentage of their environment, and data that's a week to a month old is not being scanned. So an enterprise in today's world cannot not scan their data all the time, and this isolated environment it takes away any performance from production. So that's the other reason why a lot of companies haven't been running these anomaly scans and security scans, because it slows down the workloads. And IBM again have designed technology that does not slow down the workload. IBM's production storage has a scale-out architecture where we add processing capacity to every single drive, and this takes away that overhead from the central controller that our competitors don't have, and we're able to run these anomaly scans without any degradation in performance, and that is unique to IBM. Anyone else with a central controller will not be able to do that. And back to this middle box of this isolated environment, we'll take copies of the snapshot, so deep integration with the production storage pools, as well as the backup platform. And this is where you can scan within a week all of your environment, testing all your just testing the background, an instant response of all your backup recoveries as well as your snapshot recoveries. Check that they're clean. So another deep scan, and these are scans with slightly different algorithms to really look for those Trojan horses, and where there's just the slight anomalies going on with for keyloggers and for the latest patch of some of the malware. So this middle box are working with some of the leading security products out there, like Trend Micro, where they're crowdsourcing for the latest incidents going on around the world, and reusing that latest patch that is actually catching. And the stats are amazing. This middle box here, 84% of the time in customers' environments, it's patching it's catching this additional malware that the security perimeter stuff of detection is not capturing. It's a very valuable isolated environment that strongly recommend to have in all of these environments. And then if you look on the right, we call this our data resiliency service. Having these layers of anomaly discovery products requires a little bit of orchestration management. So we've created a really easy visualization for both the security team and the data storage team. And this control plane can easily be integrated with the security integration as well. So a lot of the solution that Hoplon just been going through can integrate with this. And back to that key message I was trying to get across is that security and the data storage guys have to be as one. And these all these solutions need to be part of the compliance, so you guys don't get caught out like Marks and Spencers and Harrods have just had. And I mean they've ended up paying the ransom. They're going to lose another $200 to $300 million on profit, and then there's additional, and just market cap is down $800 million as well. So it is so critical for us to work with these new innovations to help protect your data and these attacks from these sophisticated attacks. So we believe this partnership we have with Hoplon for our data resiliency around data storage, as well as their offensive security, that's going to really help you be more protected. So, Greg, thank you for the opportunity to be partnering with you guys. Back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for speaking. We had a couple of questions come through. I'd like to end with a little bit of Q&A. If there are any more questions, please put it in the chat. Mark, I'll give you a couple of questions here, then we'll finish with a couple on the security side for RAC. Mark, would you be able to elaborate a little bit on all of those anomaly scanning features and how it impacts a storage infrastructure team's performance?
Absolutely, Nick. No, it's a great question. I touched on that a little bit. It's partly because of some of the unique architecture that IBM has. So you would need to use an IBM storage flash array system. So any of our flash systems has this capability. We have a processing power on each of the drives. We call them a flash core module. And again, it's something we can go deeper with any of the audience on the call today. But it really allows to share the workload across all of the drives. And actually, these drives are doing inline encryption, dedupe, compression without any overhead on the controller. And it's the same with the anomaly scans. And this is why we can run these anomaly scans without any degradation in performance. And we've done drag races against the leading vendors out there, and they have they have to turn off the encryption and compression because it's such an overhead on their controller and the degradation in performance. So for a high performing workload that's like an e-commerce, like we're talking with Marks and Spencers, transaction processing, it is absolutely critical to have that high performance with real-time anomaly detection, and IBM have a unique architecture for that. So that answers your question, Nick.
Yeah, it definitely does. And adding on to that, it sounds like we're adding a lot of different features and tools to our storage infrastructure. How much extra time and skills are required from an IT team to maintain and handle this? And a second part to this is, from an IBM engagement perspective, what offerings do we have to sort of help assess an organization's ability to respond to threats, whether from the security side or from the storage side?
Another great question, and obviously probably on top of the mind of most of the audience. So I'm gonna say it's a team effort with security. So it shouldn't all be on the data storage team, and this is why we're emphasizing to kind of bring in the security team. And even though I went through quite a lot of those technologies, several organizations that I talk to already have a lot of these technologies, and a lot of times it's just not enabled. So we would we would see if we can help them just enable what they already have, and then we can add in one or all of these transformational technologies. And again, I touched on it when I was going on my slide. We have this data resiliency service that really helps orchestrate and automate. So, once the data storage team are working closely with security on what that governance is, what that business recovery plan is, we can start automating those recovery plans. So if there's an attack, with one or if an attack's happening in any part of the organization, that we automatically make a new clean snapshot that's make it immutable right away, ready to respond. Or we can automate pulling from one of the air gap copy, because we validate actually they've got into one or all of the snapshots, and we can maybe get something from the backups, or we may have to get something from offsite. But again, this could be automated, saving hours of time from the storage guys. So we're trying to take this overhead of manual concern of being able to validate that last clean copy, and then how to recover that last clean copy. All of that will be pre-designed with automation. So this can be done with almost a set up and forget by the data storage team, working with the security guys.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it. A couple questions for Rack here to finish up. Rack, I really appreciated the story that you had around Target and how they might have been able to avoid that cyber incident with offensive security. What does the process look like for newer, smaller, or all size organizations for them to begin integrating offensive security into their organization?
Thank you, Nick, for the question. And as we start working with any size of organizations, it is basically like we assess the situation, and based on their organizations and their architecture, we designed the offensive security plan for them. So if it is a small organization, if they have different storage, let's say they have on-premise, they have like cloud, then their design will be different. If it is like someone who is a very small organization, it doesn't have anything in the cloud, everything is on-premise. So we will have a design, offensive security planning for them is differently. So to answer your question, I would say we will tailor their solution based on their architecture, based on their business model, and based on their security guidance.
Great. One final question is, I think one of the most insightful parts of your slide was talking about ransomware as a service and how criminals are operating. With all that being said, as a security expert, what's the best practice or what are strategies for organizations to keep in mind to stay ahead of these attackers as it's becoming easier for them to purchase these phishing kits? Everything's so much more easily accessible for them to be malicious and hold organizations for ransom.
Sorry, I was muted. So thank you, Nick. This is a very interesting question. As we all know, threats are evolving every day, and the amount of ransomware is happening in today's world. We have seen from the statistics, right? So it's happening in every 6 seconds. So that means we've been talking for last 50 minutes. In this 50 minutes, somebody has been hacked, and they have been asking for ransomware. So what we will say to get a best practice from a security standpoint, number one will be implement that security governance. On top of it, we will be talking about offensive security, in addition to deep and dark web monitoring and attack surface management. So by doing deep and dark web monitoring and attack surface management or attack surface monitoring, what we will be able to identify Like if something is leaked from our own environment, we will be able to identify those in advance so that before it goes to the bad actor's hand, we will be able to take an action. So let's say if there is any credential has been leaked, so if we know in advance, then we will be able to take a security measure around that. And lastly, and most important thing is offensive security. Why it is most important? Because think about it, we always think our defense is pretty good, pretty solid. The only way that we will be able to identify how good is our defense when we test out by doing an attack. So in offensive security world, we will be doing or performing an attack on your behalf to identify how good your defense is. And if there is any problem or if there is any gap in your security system, we will be able to identify that. Remember, I mentioned one thing, security, we have to be correct all the time, but bad actors, they have to correct only once. If they do it, they will be able to get into our system, they will be able to steal our data, and they will be able to ask us for an ransomware. So I would say that, Nick, back to you.
Thank you, Rock. I love the messaging around attackers only need to be correct once, and we need to try to be as perfect as possible during all moments. With that, I want to thank everybody for spending their lunch break or whatever time zone you're in, the time with us to learn more about the criticality of offensive security. One last thing that I'll do is I'll pass it over to Rock one more time to speak a little bit more about how they should engage with Hoplon and next steps from your side. Again, thank you all for attending. Really appreciate speaking to you all today.
Thank you, Nick. So I would say